Nothing can really prepare you for a trip to Mogadishu. I try to say a silent prayer before takeoff, but my mind wanders off to my son's words on telephone. "Be careful, Mommy," he said when I telephoned him at school to inform him that I'm off to Somalia. We are soon airborne, and I noticed that the hostesses on board Diallo Airlines, one of the more regular carriers to Mogadishu, do not even bother with your usual sit back and relax niceties. If it is your first visit to Mogadishu, the 2-hour flight from Nairobi may seem like a lifetime. We land at K50 Airport, so named because it is 50 kilometers from the capital Mogadishu. We get off the plane to be greeted by huge clouds of dust on the Maram runway. I steal impatient glances around. There are too many people carrying firearms for my comfort. I notice my cameraman David Kaigi filming from a distance, and I feel more at ease. David had to travel to Mogadishu ahead of me. The doors of the luggage compartments are flung open, and passengers cram around for their baggage in the same way you would look out for your luggage when traveling by bus. Then, I see one of our guides walking off with my suitcase without a word. It dawns on me that there is no passport control office, so I follow the guide to a waiting car. There are 4 armed men and a driver in the car. The guide instructs me to sit between the armed men. He informs me that the 4 gunmen will pass for bodyguards between me and David, my cameraman, for the duration of our stay in Mogadishu. A Toyota Land Cruiser is driving ahead of us. It has 14 mean-looking heavily armed men. This, I am informed, is our escort car, extra security, or the so-called Somali technicals. These are really just freelance gunmen on short-term hire.
Waxa keenay nabadgelyo xumada ka jirta dalka Soomaaliya ayaa ugu kalifay inaan qoriga qaado.
Wax kale wala hayaan soo noqon haya ma soo nabad imaanaya ma soo imaan soo dib soo garo imaanaya. Ay ku wariya.
Crime levels in Mogadishu are high. It's the most volatile region in the whole of Somalia. 5 warlords control the Somali capital. The transitional national government controls only a small part of Mogadishu. Sporadic armed conflicts often breaks out between the rival factions in the capital. Foreigners visiting the capital or traveling between the various warlord-controlled territories face the highest risk. After some security briefing by our minders, we check into the Shamo Hotel. And wow, it's one of those things that make you wonder about the contradictions of life. Apart from the somewhat rusty exterior, the rooms are cozy, air-conditioned, and well-equipped for the international traveler. But for now, let's go shopping. Remember, when visiting Mogadishu, your personal safety is your primary concern. It does not matter how macho you are, just do as you're told, because disregarding instructions of your minder could cost your life. On this one shopping expedition, I refuse to take the instructions of my minder. "It's too dangerous, we cannot go to the gun market," he says. He thinks I'm crazy to even make such a suggestion. Though my heart is by now literally beating in my mouth, I refuse to take no for an answer. Our journey to the gun market is nerve-wracking. I was not prepared for what I saw. I thought we were driving to some sort of department store where they sell firearms. The car came to an abrupt stop, and I looked to my side through the window and saw jungle uniforms. I looked further ahead and saw guns of all shapes and sizes. I turned to the other side to see more guns, chains of bullets, and other accessories. If I tell you that I was nervous, I would be underestimating the fear that I felt for my life and that of my cameraman David, who dutifully rolled the camera despite the grave danger that loomed large. The train of thought going through my mind was suddenly shattered by loud explosions. No problem. My mind assured me that all was well. Someone had just acquired a gun and was testing it. But even before I could calm down, I had a series of smaller explosions. "Those are smaller guns," one of my bodyguards told me. At this point, I had summoned enough courage and wanted to get out of the car. No. You cannot get out of the car. It's too risky for you as a woman." To ease the tension, one of my bodyguards offered to give me protection. So we got out of the car and headed for one of the stalls. Within minutes, I noticed everyone around us draw a pistol. "Stay close to me," my bodyguard instructed me. his own AK-47 rifle at hand. It was time to leave. The trick in Mogadishu is to spend a minimal amount of time in any location. I later asked one of the faction leaders in Mogadishu, Omar Mahmoud alias Omar Finish, where they get all these firearms.
When the Somali government collapsed, the stores of the weapons were broken by the people to collect these from the stores. And also, these weapons are in the hands of the population. And there are some merchants who bring the weapons from the neighbor countries, mostly from Ethiopia, from Yemen.
We then head off to a place the locals call Fuma Mogadishu. This was the epicenter of the civil war. It was Somalia's commercial and political center, housing parliament, the central bank, and other key government installations. I guess the place under the name Fuma Mogadishu because it is now just ruins. It is one of the most dangerous places in Mogadishu. The ruins are controlled by several warlords. It took some deal making with the militias that control Fuma Mogadishu and a great deal of money to be allowed into the ruins in Fuma Mogadishu. But even then, our safety was far from guaranteed. Within minutes of mounting our tripod to take pictures, we would be surrounded by impatient gunmen. Even though we had a total of 18 heavily armed bodyguards during our visit to Fuma Mogadishu, we felt so insecure, we had to leave in haste. After an edgy day on the streets of Mogadishu, a good shower and a change of clothes, I retreat with the relative safety of my room at the Sharma Hotel in the north of Mogadishu, and I could be in any five-star hotel anywhere in the world, satellite television, and a direct telephone link to any global destination. The people of Somalia are willing to invest in their country even during these turbulent times. How much more if there was peace in their country? But the question is, are Somalia's political leaders as committed to the Somali nation as the ordinary people, the real victims of their power struggles? In the words of a Somali author, Mohammed Omar Osman, Somalia is a nation that has been driven to despair by these struggles for exclusive power. You only need to take a walk in Bakara Market's maze of crowded streets to appreciate the resilience and the optimism of the Somali people. Mogadishu is one dangerous place, but it's abuzz with commercial activity. There's a diverse range of merchandise, from gold, clothing and shoes, to street corner forex bureaus. But one thing stands out, defying the natural order of things. Somalia has one of the best and cheapest telecommunication systems in Africa. Hello? Yeah? All right, thanks, bye. Within an hour of touching down on Somali soil, I was not only checked into a hotel, I was connected to a GSM phone network as well. I was amazed, not just by the efficiency, but the bargain prices as well. The growth of the telecommunications industry is closely interwoven with the story of the close to 2 million Somalis in diaspora. Somalis in diaspora, many of them successful in business, repatriate huge sums of money back home. That spurs the growth of business. Before the war in 1990, Somalia had about 17,000 telephone landlines, which ground to a halt during the civil war between 1991 and 1994. Private telephone operators sprang up after the civil war. At the time, an international call from Somalia would cost $4 a minute to America and Europe, and $7, that is 300 shillings and 525 shillings respectively, to the rest of the world. The cost is now down to 50 US cents, or about 37 shillings. This is remarkable compared to the cost of telecommunications among our more well-to-do neighbors like Kenya, where an international call would cost between $1.4 to $2.05 per minute, depending on the destination. Despite the uncertain future that Somalia faces, it has an estimated 100,000 telephone lines compared to over 300,000 fixed lines in Kenya. Telephone service providers in Somalia attribute the competitive prices to tough competition and cheaper gateways.
There is a tough competition in this market, and the competition is what drives the quality and bring the prices low.
The gateways we use is cheaper than the African countries, of course.
However, collection of revenue is a nightmare for service providers. Many subscribers have no fixed addresses, and the telephone service providers have to employ a large number of people to collect revenue.
I adjust this situation by employing so many people that go after the customers to make them pay their bills. So we go to the market, we go to the place, to the houses, to the businesses, and do the collections by ourselves.
But if the customer refuses to pay, there is nothing much the service provider can do except disconnecting the line. There are no arbitration systems. There are 3 main telephone service providers in Mogadishu: Telkom Somalia, NationLink Telecom, and Homod, which was trading as Al Barakat before the US government shut it down after the September 11 bombings in the US on allegations that it was connected to the Al-Qaeda terrorist network. Well, after close to 2 weeks in Mogadishu, we were running broke, mostly from paying for security, so it was time to head back to Nairobi. On our last day in Mogadishu, we were heading to the airport, and we made a near-fatal mistake. We decided to stop in rebel territory for a quick interview with one of our bodyguards. Just when we were folding up our equipment, I saw 3 gunmen walking towards us. I turned back to look behind us and saw another group of 3. I knew immediately that we were in trouble. A man who looked like the leader of the group sought to know from us what we were up to. He was not convinced that we were up to any good. We were just a kilometer away from the airport, with our flight due in just over an hour. The mean-looking gunman instructed us to turn back and drive to their command base for interrogation. We were ushered in by the base commander, the son of a warlord who owns an airport in the vicinity. I was relieved when he spoke to us in fluent Kiswahili. He was educated and brought up in Kenya. Apparently, the location we chose for our interview is where they keep heavy military equipment. The base commander only set us free when he was sure that what we had shot was in fact an interview. We made it to Daniel Airport in time for our mirror flight to Nairobi. I felt a heavy load lifted off my chest as we touched down at Wilson Airport. That cliché, east or west, home is best, was not just a cliché, it was loaded with meaning for me. I was really glad to be back home. I realized how much we Kenyans take peace for granted and behave in ways that come dangerously close to compromising it. And that's the flip side. I'm Farida Karoney reporting from Mogadishu. By the time I'm done with this report, that is, in the next 5 or so minutes, at least 3 Kenyans will have died of AIDS, and within the next 24 hours, 700 will have died, according to the National AIDS Control Council. 2.6 million of us live with the killer virus, HIV. Yet, what are we doing, you and me, to ensure that those already living with the virus are living positively, and those who are not yet infected are protected? Many of us are guilty of doing nothing at all, even as the virus continues to take its toll, reversing years of economic development. Yet, all you need to do is visit a poor neighborhood to appreciate the devastation caused by HIV/AIDS. When the International Conference on AIDS and Sexually Transmitted Infections in Africa, ICASA, got underway at the KICC on September the 21st, the Flipside crew was up and about the slums of Kayole in Nairobi's Eastlands. We were invited for Sunday service at the Kayole Calvary Covenant Center. We were here at the invitation of CBS Turning Point co-host Victor Oladokun, who was one of the special guests at the service. I hear you asking, so what has that got to do with AIDS? Everything, believe me. Yes, when your pastor says run, You do it military style, no questions. Your pastor, your imam, is one of those people privileged enough to command the audience of thousands of faithful every week for 52 weeks in a year. So what better person to talk about AIDS?
Those who are alive, stay alive, and those who are infected.
When I listened to Bishop Nyatuke speak in church, I wondered what inspired him to speak about AIDS with such compassion and passion. I caught up with him after the service. In the African community, especially Kenya, talking about sex, talking about sexuality, talking about AIDS is taboo. How do you talk about it in the church?
Since I have attended so many funerals of such a kind, of many people dying of such, we are not afraid now about talking about sex and talking about HIV/AIDS openly. Like I can be able to say today the whole entire service was talking about AIDS, sex and HIV. So we are not shying out anymore, because the more we shy out, we are buying a leaf from Uganda, and the only solution is that we talk directly and openly to our children and to everybody about the situation.
If the faith organizations are not involved, the war on AIDS will never be won, he told me with a fallen look on his face. To drive home his point, he took me to the home of Hannah Wamboi. Hannah is only 33. She's a single mother of 4 children, aged between 14 years and 9 months. Hannah is HIV positive, waging a lonely battle against HIV in the squalid conditions of Kayole's Kambiangurue, so named because the residents keep pigs.
Wanasaidiwa na majirani kwa sababu hakuna kazi sasa ninaweza kufanya. Kijaribu kitu ninashindwa. Ndugu zangu huwa pengine wananisaidia kidogo.